Hang on. So, what was the most hurtful thing Rambo's boyfriend did to him?
Right. I've seen this film. It's a bootleg. It's a very different film. Rambo's boyfriend.
Well, I'm being very naughty. Of course, the picture is being very naughty. Yes. When I say Rambo, I really mean Rambo.
Oh. Rambo.
So when I say Rambo, who do I mean?
You mean, of course, him.
Who is he?
He looks off his head.
Somebody French. Arthur
Rambo.
Arthur Rambo, who was...
Arthur, no, he was a great writer.
He was a poet. He was a great poet. But he was very rare in as much as we're used to Beethoven and Mozart and other musicians being extraordinarily prodigious at an early age. It's very rare for a poet. The greatest work that Rimbaud wrote, and he was a great poet, was between the ages of 17 and 21. He was extraordinarily beautiful. According to a school friend, he had eyes of pale blue irradiated with dark blue, the loveliest eyes I've ever seen. He was a brilliant student. He won a regional poetry competition in spite of sleeping through the first 3 hours of the exam. At 16, he ran away from home with no money. And then between the ages of 17 and 21, just 4 years, he had this extraordinary flowering as a poet. But in doing so, he shared his life with someone. He had a passionate, tumultuous affair with... ...
Katie Price. ...
His dates were 1854 to 1891. So he died in 36, 37.
And he was of a homosexual
child
persuasion.
prodigy, he was gay.
Oh, well, I don't know anything about those people.
And in fact, there is a plaque, a blue plaque to him in London, where he shared a shortish time with his lover, who was also a poet, a famous poet.
Oh. Gérard de Nerval.
No, one of them. Gérard de Nerval was a fascinating man.
He was.
Very much enjoyed the way you said that.
Je suis le veuf, l'un compte.
And he also famously had a pet lobster, Gérard de Nerval.
He did, indeed.
Who we used to take for walks on a lead.
Vite, vite, monsieur! Monsieur Kiki!
Stay with it, stay with it, stay with it.
Allons-y!
Stay with it, because it's good. Because...
Non!
J'ai pas viré!
Non! Allez-y! Tu vas manger quelque chose?
L'eau! S'il vous plaît, l'eau!
Non! Non, pas de l'eau. Non, l'artichoke de Gérard le Salam.
I never thought I'd see the day when Bill Bailey force-fed Gérard de Nerval's lobster with Jerusalem artichoke. The day came. Anyway, let's just return to this other poet who was the lover of the young Verlaine. Oh, sorry,
Verlaine!
Now, there on the left is Verlaine, the one who looks slightly like John Malkovich. Oh. In the middle is the boy wonder, Rambo, and on the right is, I can't remember his name.
That's Robert De Niro.
It is Robert De Niro, yes, yeah.
It is a bit, isn't it, on the right? It's Robert De Niro.
It's like a 19th century ad for hairdressers. Yeah. All the different styles. That's the same person in that picture as it was in the one before? Jeez, ear brushing.
I know. But they went to live in Camden for a short while, and there is a blue plaque in Camden that says, Arthur Rimbaud and Paul Verlaine, poets and lovers, lived here. It's the first blue plaque ever to celebrate a gay couple, which is rather sweet. Anyway, that's the story of these two. It so happens that Paul Verlaine wrote a poem of extraordinary international importance, whose opening lines are...
And did those
No, I'll tell you what they are. Les sangles longues des violons de l'automne blessent mon cœur de monotone longueur.
I didn't realise you wanted it in French.
No, it seriously is internationally important, that poem. How could that be that those first lines changed history?
It's the international...
I will do it in a voice that might give you a hint.
Okay.
Les sangles longues des violons de l'automne... Yes.
It's the start of the Eurovision Song Contest.
That, as we know, Beethoven's Ninth Symphony begins that. No, it was a code.
Code to the resistance.
Yes! It was a code to the resistance that the D-Day landings were beginning and that the resistance should begin their sabotage. So that was the signal. So it's rather wonderful. So to French hearts beat a little quicker when they hear those 4 words.
It's a rather... camp person decided that was the code they were going to use.
It's a very famous poem, and it would be like saying, shall I compare thee to a summer's day, or whatever. Anyway, we thought you'd like to know about it, but why...
Quite interesting.
The question was, how did the lover hurt Rambo?
Shut his fingers in the door.
Yeah.
Worse than that, he had a tumultuous, passionate, jealous rage, and he shot him in the wrist.
In the wrist?
Yes.
Whilst he was masturbating.
Well, I'm going to move on, because
move on.
This baby.
It's for the best.
Anyway.
I am so out of my comfort zone.
It's all good information that is well worth knowing. Arthur Rimbaud was shot in the arm by Paul Verlaine. Now, on to one of the delicacies of Jamaican cuisine. I think we all know how to make cock soup, but how would you make manish water?
Sorry, I don't know how to make cock soup. I don't know what...
Really? Cockaliki.
Oh, right. Oh, OK.
Cockaliki. It's chicken soup.
Oh, I see. Is that what it is?
A cock is a chicken.
It's a chicken, yeah, it's a chicken.
What can you have been thinking?
I don't know. I thought it was some terrible euphemism.
What, a euphemism for pheasant?
I don't... Yes, that's it, pheasant.
Well, cock soup is chicken soup. Cockaliki.
Cockaliki soup.
You've had cockaliki in Scotland.
I've had cockaliki.
Yeah, yes, you've had a leaky cock. No, because. No, listen, now, manish water.
So, Frankie Howard was in the room. No, wait.
No,
don't.
Stop.
No, shush, no.
Don't.
No.
Mrs. No.
Big belly laughs from all the men with big bellies, and we'll have little titters from all... No. All right. Don't you remember that one? Oh. Stop it. Manish water. Come on, we're in Jamaica. Manish water.
Is it some kind of a soupage of some kind? Is it?
Yes.
It's a soupage.
It's Jamaican.
Jamaican soupage. Yeah. Right, so do you want to do Jamaican food? Is what you're looking for? So the most famous...
It's manish, though. The point is, they want to be male, so they're going to eat male animals.
Oh, OK, so it's...
And what food is common in...
Rice and peas.
Yes?
Rice and peas, flying fish.
Anything else?
Goat.
Goat.
Details of goat.
That's it. So all the male parts of a goat, and a male goat is the important thing, makes manish water. It's also called goat's head soup. Does the phrase goat's head soup mean anything to you?
Yes, I'm not hungry, is what it means.
It's an album, isn't it?
Thank you.
Goat's head soup by... What's his name?
Not his name, their name. The greatest rock and roll band in the world, they call themselves?
The Claimers.
And you can walk another 100 miles no, I'm very fond of the Proclaimers, but the Rolling Stones in 1973 produced an album called Goat's Head Soup.
Yes.
Because they recorded the album on Jamaica. And do you know why they recorded the album on Jamaica?
They were mad for the soup.
They weren't...
Nope. Because it was about the only bloody country on earth where they weren't banned from. It was around the time of a lot of the drugs and all the rest of it. And so they were allowed in Jamaica, and they made an album called Goat's Head Soup, which is another word for manish water. And its ingredients, should you wish to make it, are goat's head, feet and intestines served with bananas and spices. It's supposed to be an aphrodisiac. It's supposed to man you up. That's the point. Hence, manish soup. There's also cow cod soup made of bull's penis, chili peppers and bananas cooked in white rum, which sounds rather nice.
That is nice.
Yeah, I like the sound of that.
I'll just hop up a little in the morning.
Yeah. Anyway, that's manish water for you. But where are fathers often barely older than their sons? Barely, and when I say barely older, they can be only a day older than their son.
In the insect world.
It's got to be...
No, I'm talking about humans.
Humans?
Yeah. Sounds impossible.
Adoptions.
Adoptions. And there is a country in which 98% of all adoptions are of adults, not of children. In which country?
Japan.
And it begins with J, and it is Japan. And in Japan, it is very traditional to adopt an adult young man, aged between 25 and 30 is roughly the average,
So you've got to find one without parents, presumably. You've got to find one that's Scottish, but
oddly enough, you, as it were, adopt them from their own real parents. Because you're rich and successful.
It's called stealing.
The reason... It sort of is.
It's the transfer system.
It's a transfer... It is basically an open market transfer system.
Yeah, it's like the Premier League.
Yeah, and it is for the same reason. It's business. If your own son is a bit of a clod, and I'm afraid it is a male business, this, and you run a business, and you want it to stay a family business, what you tend to do is adopt a young man who is very bright, and you'll probably marry him to your daughter. There is a saying, you can't choose your son, but you can choose your son-in-law.
You can adopt somebody, make them your son, and then marry them to your
yes,
daughter?
I know.
Isn't there something...
I know it's weird, that is the Japanese way.
Wow. That would take off in Norfolk.
So, for example, the current chairman of Suzuki, one of the largest corporations in Japan, is the 4th adopted son to have run the company. So he is a Suzuki. That's to say his father was someone who was adopted by someone who was adopted by someone who was adopted by a Suzuki. And they're not blood-related, but they've become the adopted child. But there you are. So only 2% of adoptees in Japan are infants. Right. Only 2. The rest, 98%, are males.
All males?
All males. So and they're there for that reason, to continue...
The line.
That's ongoing.
It's ongoing to this day, yes, absolutely. Now, here are 2 towns behind me. They both begin with J. Why are they blue?
Oh, no, I know this.
Yes.
Well, I know, well, one of them.
Go on, then.
I've got a Smurf collection. I've had it many years. When I was younger, I used to collect Smurfs. It was my hobby. I've got a Smurf village I created when I was younger. It's still there. Reminds me of the bad times. And the good times.
Right.
Now, and if this is wrong, I'm going to look like a total twat.
Yeah.
When
The thing is, you're going to look like a twat even if you're right.
Yeah.
Carry on, because knowing this is so deeply sad. Yeah, carry on.
So I love Smurfs and everything about Smurfs and Smurfette and everything else.
Yeah.
When they did the premiere of the Smurf film, they painted a town somewhere, I think it was in Spain, near Marbella or something like that, blue for the premiere of the film. And then afterwards they said, we'll paint it back. And the residents had had such a lot of tourism, and they dubbed the mayor Papa Smurf, which he was delighted about. But they were having a referendum to see if they wanted to keep their town blue because they thought it was quite cool. And I think, because that's Smurf, because it was Smurf Town, which sounds amazing, because I love the Smurfs.
You
I like it. It's that one.
100% correct.
Come on!
Oh, wow.
The only thing that would add 20 points was if you knew the name.
20 points?
The only... Will you not destroy the set? There's some broke in it. Just tell me the name of the town.
Juarez. Was it Juarez?
No, that's in Mexico. We're talking about Spain.
Jojoba.
Jerez.
No, that's...
Jamin.
Juan. It begins with Ch. I'll give you that.
Jerusalem.
Jerusalem.
Heidi.
No,
Heidi.
it's called Cusca.
Next thing I was going to say.
J-U-Z-C-A-R. Cusca.
What's
With an
the
accent
other
on the
town?
U.
What's the other town? Jaipur.
Yes. Well
point.
done. No. Whoa. Jodhpur. I misheard you.
It's Jodhpur.
Jodhpur is the answer.
I still said it before Sandy. I
You
still
did.
said Jodhpur
You said
before
the wrong
Sandy.
thing.
No, I said Jodhpur. I still said
Give me the
Jodhpur.
point.
You're quite right. It's Jodhpur. So we're going to go back to a picture of Jodhpur. Why is Jodhpur blue?
It's to do with the caste system. It's
Yes.
to do with indigo. Indigo being the colour of the Brahmin.
Brahmin. It's a Brahmin, which
it was
is the
to
highest
distinguish their
caste.
houses, and then everybody else thought it was a good idea.
There's also a pink city. Can you name a pink city?
That was the
Jaipur.
Yes! There you go. Well, there it is. It was built in pink stone, and it was indeed painted pink for a very particular reason. I wonder if you can...
Prince Albert, wasn't it?
Yes, Prince Albert Edward, who later became Edward VII.
He was coming to visit, and they thought,
he visited
let's
in the
paint it pink.
In the 1870s, painted pink in his honour. Anyway, there we go. Jodhpur and Khuskar are both painted blue, one by tradition, the other for a Smurfs film. Now, what would you keep in a 14-ton jar with no lid?
Biscuits.
Yeah.
Biscuits. A lot of biscuits.
Lots of biscuits,
14-ton jar.
14-ton jar is quite... I have difficulty imagining what that would be how big that is. In fact,
14 tons is heavy, but I mean it's only.
It's a big thing.
It's only 6 or 7 lorries. I mean, what, 6 lorries? Well, 4 lorries depends how big the lorry is.
Yes.
But I mean, you know, you get a 2-ton truck. Yeah. So if you're talking about a 14 one, it's not a jam jar. No, it's a jar.
Tadpoles.
They're known as a jar to archaeologists, if that's any use to you.
Yes.
I did archaeology at university, and there's quite a lot of things that we don't know what they're for.
Yes.
And I think this is one of those. I think
might you be able to place it on the map?
I think it's in Laos.
You are damn well spot on. I'm so impressed with you lot today. Although you've been occasionally just a little bit facetious, you've also come up with some stonkingly correct answers.
What they now think is that nobody knows what they were for, and Marco Polo describes them, and we now think they're for making goat's head soup.
You're absolutely right, though. They're on the plains of Laos, and they're made of granite, and they are human-made. No one knows how they made them. Granite is not an easy stone to work with. I mean, you make a nice kitchen surface for it. It's lovely for slicing. Slicing.
Writing.
Writing. Exactly.
Buying things on eBay.
Right. Anyway, there are 90 sites, each containing up to 400 of these jars. And as you rightly say, we don't really know what they're for. The assumption is dead bodies were put in there, allowed to decompose, were then taken out and cremated, and it was something to do with the journey of the dead.
Yeah, but you always have to allow for the soul of even very early people, and maybe it's one of those things where they thought, if I make a very big container, the gods will fill it for me with bounty. Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
We must always allow for the dream element.
Exactly. Absolutely right. There is often a functional fallacy. There is always an assumption that things are done for a very specific practical reason, which isn't always true. The soul is a lot of...
Well, it's like the cargo cults in Papua New Guinea who built whole runways. The missionaries came and they had all this staff, and the indigenous people say, what is it? They said, it's cargo. And they said, where does it come from? It comes from Sydney, meaning Australia, and they developed a god called Sydney. And they made whole runways in the jungle, waiting for Sydney to bring them cargo. So you might find a runway and think, what landed here? The answer is nothing landed here, except your dashed dreams.
Yeah,
and
that's
so
beautifully put.
Perhaps that's the case with the jars.
I think that's beautifully put. And the fact is, the most honest archaeologists will say they don't know, A, how they were made, or B, exactly what they were for. Your guess is as good as mine, and yours seems to me to be a very rational and realistic one.
They also may be a corresponding set of stolen lids.
Yeah.
Somewhere. Cambodia.
Anyway, do you know the capital of Alaska?
Yes, you just said it.
Exactly, thank you. Very good. Juneau is the capital of Alaska. Juneau. Juneau. But there's something unique about it.
It rains all the bloody time, I know that.
Well, it's not accessible by road. You can only get there by air or water. There is no road to Juneau.
Sarah Palin can get there by walking on the water.
Well. And can you tell me the biggest joke ever to come out of Alaska?
Sarah Palin, who
We're not forfeiting you that. It was so obvious.
Oh,
we weren't even going to forfeit it.
If I had forfeited, I would have repudiated.
We would have repudiated. Anyway, the point is, there is actually a famous practical joke, an April Fool's joke that came out of Alaska. It took a lot of preparation and it was rather extraordinary. We'll show you a photograph that might give you a hint. I mean, it's not really going to be easy, but what's in the background there?
This is a volcano-based practical
joke,
and it's one that I read about it, and it very much impressed me because if you do a practical joke, which is, cling film over the toilet, something simple.
Yeah.
The person who did this practical joke... it's a good one. It doesn't work for women necessarily, because we tend to notice when we sit down that there's some... But for men, I tell you, it's a hoot. There was a volcano... and a gentleman, I can't remember his name, I apologise, decided to try and make it seem as if it was erupting, so took loads of tyres and set fire to it, and then everyone came out of their houses and went, the volcano's erupting.
Yes, absolutely right. He waited 3 years till there was a clear April the 1st. He took kerosene and smoke bombs and tyres, and he dropped them down the crater and set fire to it. But in 50-foot letters, he did say, April Fool, and he warned the federal authority. He called them up, but he forgot to call the Coast Guard, who did panic a bit. But it was, fortunately, all taken in the right spirit. And his name is Porky Bickar.
Porky.
Porky, that was his nickname. Porky. He was American, so he was called Porky. Porky Bicar. And that is, aside from Sarah Palin, the greatest joke ever to come out of Alaska.
It is a good one.
I have to say, I am
one.
very impressed again with your knowledge. And as it happens, that's the end of tonight's questions. So let's see how our journey has panned out. Well, it's astonishing. Her first ever appearance on Plus 15, a clear winner, Susan Calman. And only 4 inches behind on 11, Sandy Toxfield. Impressively, the digitally endowed, still in the black, plus 4, Bill Bailey. Well, perhaps the best we can say is, bless him, he did try. Minus 11, Alan Davies. That's all from Sandy, Susan, Bill, Alan and me. Thank you, good night, and be wonderful to each other. Bye-bye.
More quizzing here on BBC HD as Breakaway continues on Monday at 4:30. Next tonight, though, comedy coming up from